We can't keep getting away with it, can we? Well, I don't really care. We're here to recap everything, and I'm just gonna take, a seat back and relax and enjoy the comments, enjoy scrolling through social media, and I'm gonna become the villain this episode. Just kidding. I don't know. But listen, seriously though, another just stupid week of Chiefs football. And overall, a pretty interesting week of regular football. Because that's regular football, of course. And then when the Chiefs are on the screen, it's like satanic, whatever you want. So, anyways, let's welcome in. I'm Sam Gold. This is the First and Gold podcast. And yeah, we're here to recap week 14 of the NFL. And as you guys know, we've been doing this every single week now, which is we want you guys to go down in the comment section and comment down below your bold take of the week. And then whoever we think has the best bold take, we're going to pin their comment, like it, and then shout it out on the next podcast. So here's last week's comment. Shout out Andrew Man 9851. I can't believe I'm going to say this because I don't want this to happen. But he says, bold take, ... TJ Watt will break Patrick Mahomes' leg on Christmas. Merry Christmas, Andrew. That's real nice of you. Yeah, no, that's a real bold take. If that happens, I'll give you $100. There you go. I hope that doesn't happen. As per usual, we're going to start with our 2-minute drill segment, which is where we're going to talk about the games that you don't want to get too much in depth about, but we're going to spend 2 full minutes saying 1 or 2 things about each of those games. And let's start it now with Dolphins-Jets. It was actually a great game, but it just missed the cut. It went into overtime. The Dolphins win on a Tua Tagovailoa game-winning touchdown. Who was it? Jonnu Smith. Overall, it's just another classic example of the Jets keeping it close every single game, it seems like, this year, and then just finding a way to blow it or lose it. They always have the lead at one point. But congrats to Aaron Rodgers, his first 300-yard plus passing game since 2021. So there you go. And, the Dolphins still stay alive, so hopefully maybe they can make a run. Titans-Jags 10-6. The Jags get their 3rd win of the season. And, yeah, that's about it. Giants-Saints 14-11. Just a classic example of how hilariously bad the Giants have been, honestly, this past decade, other than a couple of seasons, going down, actually making a nice comeback with Drew Lock, and then getting their kick blocked. By the way, shout out Brian Brzee from the Saints, having a phenomenal year. Bucks Raiders 28-13. The Bucks win it. The Battle of the Pirates. Aiden O'Connell, genuinely, he's starting to get up there with Skylar Thompson. Shout out our ranking every backup quarterback video. Aiden O'Connell was horrendous yesterday. I don't understand how he can be on the field anymore. I actually did get injured, so we're going to see probably Desmond Ridder. Good luck, Raiders fans. But, yep, look, the Bucks, much needed win. They just took over their division. Good job. Browns Steelers. The Steelers get away with this one, 27-14. And I say get away because they almost got swept by the Browns. Now, this game wasn't very close, especially in the second half. Hilariously, Kadarius Toney comes back on the Browns and immediately muffs a punt. So, I just had to sit back and kind of chuckle at that a little bit. And then finally, Bears 49ers, what was it, 38-13. The 49ers easily win this one at home. Their defense looked good for how many injuries that they've had. The Bears keep on losing. Honestly, Bears fans, just wipe away this entire season and just move on. All right, there you go. That's the 2-minute drill. We got 6 games to talk about in our more in-depth segment coming up right now. So we're going to start at number 6. This might have been a better game than some of the next ones we're going to talk about. But since it happened all the way back on Thursday Night Football, I'll talk about it first. Packers-Lions. The Lions win this one 34-31. On a game-winning kick where, yep, the story of this game is Dan Campbell. It's just, like, he's so lucky sometimes that these decisions work out, but, man, I got to give it to him for staying consistent throughout his entire coaching career of going for it on these 4th downs. Now, look, there's only 2 things that scare me about the Lions right now. One of them, of course, is their injuries. I think they have like 14 defensive players on IR right now. And you've definitely seen that with the fact that the Packers so easily came back on offense, scored a bunch of points. So that's definitely an issue. And then the second thing, although, yes, it's worked out more times than not, and people admire Dan Campbell for this, another issue is just sometimes you shouldn't. He made the wrong decision, but it worked out, and now they look good, and now they're 12-1. So it's fine. But look, you saw it last year in the NFC Championship game. sometimes there's just situations where you really shouldn't go for it on 4th down. And I'm just scared that it's going to be this tie game once again against Philly at home in front of the crowd. And Dan Campbell's he's just going to want to end it and go for it. But this time, Philly's got Jalen Carter and a good defensive line. Or even if they want to pass it, they got a great secondary. And at some point, just like the 49ers game, a decision like that is not going to work out. And once again, we're going to be sitting here on another Super Bowl-less season for the Lions saying, man, if they just would have maybe played a little more conservative, they would have been to 2 straight Super Bowls. And look, that could totally not happen this year. I think they're still a better team overall this year. But look, if you're playing against I'm thinking ahead. If you're playing against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and you make a similar decision with that, you got Saquon Barkley on the other side. He's just got to run it for 35 yards and then they kick a field goal and win it. I don't know. Like, it's obviously fun to see it work out. And Jared Goff, people were like, that should totally be down. Do you guys know the NFL rules? We'll get to the Chiefs game later. People need to know the rules. If your knee's down, you can still hand it off. This isn't college. Like, just that. Like, everybody's holding their breath when he falls down on the handoff. And then you're just lucky enough that Dave Montgomery has enough power to get through and their offensive line's good. But, man, just weird things with this Dan Campbell coach team. But it keeps working out. Like, it's similar to the Chiefs. I think the Lions have definitely been better than the Chiefs this year, but I'm just saying, like, everything's fine, and all the problems won't be talked about if you keep stacking the W's. So, props to the Lions. They still had to drive down there and get into field goal range, so, you know, their offense played very well. On the Packers side of things, look, this was their moment to try to actually have a chance in their division. They couldn't get it. They lost to the Lions twice this season now. They've already lost to the Vikings once. So they're just kind of vying for a good wild card spot. And I actually think, funny enough, the Packers probably want the 6th seed. I think they actually want to be behind the Vikings because, and we're going to see this next Sunday night in Seattle, but I think a better matchup for them is playing the Seahawks than the Bucs. And right now it's kind of shaping out that the Seahawks are going to get the 3 seed and the Bucs are going to get the 4 seed. So I don't know. Jordan Love keeps doing his thing. He keeps having great spurts where it looks like he's just slinging the ball around. He made a really, really phenomenal throw in the 4th quarter in this game. So look, the Packers could totally make some noise in the playoffs. You know, the fact that they already lost twice now to the Lions does scare me a little bit, but they're right there. And man, is there any angrier coach in the NFL than Matt LaFleur? I feel like every time you see him on the sidelines, he's just screaming at the refs, but I don't know. Anyways, it was a great game overall. Thursday Night Football, honestly, has been very, very solid this season. Even Al Michaels was like, we deserve this after the last couple of years. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you're right. But yeah, Packers-Lions, it definitely lived up to the hype. And congrats to the Lions for their best start since God knows when, the 50s, I think. 12-1. So, look, this has just been a dream season for the Lions, especially with all the injuries that they had. And they're still looking this good. So, although as a Chiefs fan, I don't want to play the Lions in the Super Bowl if we make it there again. But it would be nice to see the Lions finally break that seal. So we'll see what happens. All right, number 5, it's Falcons-Vikings. Now the final score, 42-21. The Vikings pull it out, especially in that 4th quarter. But I wanted to talk about this because it was huge leading up to this in terms of storylines. Of course, it was Kirk Cousins returning to Minnesota. He got a couple of nice boos, just kind of like how Matt Stafford did in that Rams-Lions playoff game last year. I don't think the Vikings fans actually dislike Kirk Cousins. Absolutely not. I think it's just more fun to have a guy that used to be on your team come back and then just give him some boos, give him a hard time. You know what I mean? So for people that are like, the Vikings fans are so disrespectful. No, that's just what happens. Like, I'm sure Vikings fans love Kirk Cousins. You know what I mean? He's like their Alex Smith. Like, Chiefs fans have nothing against Alex Smith. They made him a relevant team. They just didn't win a lot in the playoffs. But anyways, let's talk about the game. 42-21, like I just said. And this game was close. And it felt like this was going to be a classic Vikings-Falcons. Like, these are two teams that always love to keep it close all the way throughout. And then one rather makes a horrible mistake at the end, or they somehow squeak it out. Shout out the word squeak, which a lot of people really took that and ran with it on TikTok when I made a clip about the prediction, and I said that the Vikings would squeak out a win, and people were like, oh, squeak, you say? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't know. The Vikings have always been winning close this year. What else was I supposed to predict? But at least I picked the Vikings. So, it was 21-21 in the 4th quarter. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins for a second and the Falcons as a whole, because, man, their season is deteriorating. I don't know if they can come back from this. This was their biggest game of the year. And once again, Kirk Cousins is just showing signs of, maybe he's not meant to be in the league anymore. And I know that sucks to hear because he really had a solid start to the year. They started 5-2 and 6-3, and now they've lost 4 straight. Kirk Cousins' stats are horrendous in the last 4 games. 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in the last 4 games. Man, people are clamoring for Michael Penix right now, and I don't blame them at all. It feels like Kirk is just throwing away some of these games. And look, partially this was not his fault this time around in this game, although he obviously needs to start throwing touchdowns. But it was 21-21, and then Kirk Cousins didn't get the ball back until they were down 35-21. Because after they scored and tied it up, the Vikings went down and scored a touchdown, and then Ray McLeod fumbled the next kickoff return, and then the Vikings went down and scored another touchdown. So a lot of this was special teams and the Falcons defense. I mean, how confusing and gut-wrenching can they be to the Falcons fans this year? Because they've had spurts, and they have good players. And then they had last week where you play a Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers team who were rolling, and you hold them to 0 offensive touchdowns. And then the next week, when it matters absolute most against Sam Darnold, the guy who just replaced Kirk Cousins, you give up 5 touchdowns and 42 points. So just bad vibes all around for the Falcons. And with the Bucs on the come up, and now they just overtook the division, even though the Falcons have that tiebreaker, it's just, oh God, all you could hope at this point for the Falcons is you keep those pieces that are the bright spots of your team. Your Bijan Robinsons, your Pitts, your London, your offensive line, your Matt Judons, your Jesse Bates, your AJ Terrells. Look, I just named a lot of good players. But Kirk, his age is really showing. His lack of mobility is showing with the play action. And his decision-making is just really not there this year, especially in the last 4 games. It's just unacceptable to have a guy who you thought was high caliber, you paid him a ton of money, and now he's going out in the most important stretch of the season, going for 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. But that leads me to having to give some props to the Vikings. Now, the Vikings are 11-2. If it wasn't for the Lions, I think the Vikings would be talked about way more this year. And they were at the beginning of the year, but man, they need some proper respect. This was a game where I thought, once again, kind of like how the Chiefs have been this year, they were kind of just going to play to their opponent's level, keep it close the whole game, and it kind of was like that until the 4th quarter. But props to them. They pulled away. They took advantage of the Falcons' mistakes. They played very good defense in the second half. Byron Murphy had one of the best interceptions of the year, that one-hander in the end zone. That was great. They were getting to the quarterback. That's got to be the story of the season that not too many people are talking about, is how the Vikings defense is reshaping this team. I know when it's all said and done and we look at Sam Darnold's stats, at the end of the year and say, man, he really just completely turned around his career, which he did. Total props to Sam Darnold. He avoided the mid-season drop-off that we were all kind of expecting, and he still is he had his best game of his career against the Kirk Cousins revenge game Falcons. So props to him 100%. But I don't want this Vikings defense to be overlooked because, man, they have really, really been the story of their season. I feel like, at least. I don't want them to go overlooked. So I still feel like there's a chance if they go to Tampa or something that they could blow it. But if that is the matchup, I am still going to pick the Vikings to win that game. And I think they've earned enough respect where they for sure, hopefully, will get to the divisional round because, man, they're a scary team. And not a lot of people are talking about it, so props to them. All right, let me move on to number 4, Eagles-Panthers, 22-16. The Eagles just, here it is, squeak it out. A lot of people are coming out of this game being like, whoa, what just happened to the Eagles? Is this, they were just rolling completely, and then they almost lost to Bryce Young and the Panthers. I don't want to hear it anymore this season with, oh, you guys almost lost to Bryce Young and the Panthers. And maybe this is a little bit of coping and bias because the Chiefs just had one of these types of games 2 weeks ago. But seriously, I think this is objective. The Panthers are just a better team now. I said this last week. Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future. They have a good nucleus with him and Dave Canales, and they can build off of that. And now they're playing the perfect type of football for Panthers fans to watch. They're playing against teams that are playoff caliber. They came off of 2 victories, and then they just lost to the Chiefs. They just lost to the Bucks, and they just lost to the Eagles. That is the perfect scenario for Panthers fans to watch their team finally have their superstar quarterback actually look good, and then barely lose games against great opponents so their draft capital is still good. I mean, that's the perfect thing for Panthers fans to watch. So, once again, I'm going to defend the Eagles here. Like, yes, I'm sure they were maybe overlooking them a little bit because the Panthers are just one of those frisky teams now where you're going to see the word Panthers in that logo and just like a 5'9" quarterback running onto the field and be like, we'll be fine. And then it'll be close to the fourth quarter, and that's when you got to start earning your respect for the Panthers. So, I think this was kind of that trap game vibe to it, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to really take that much away from the Eagles. I think, this is just one of those games, it's hard to get up for a team that they at least don't think is playoff caliber, and at 1 o'clock at home, they kind of maybe slept walk through that first half a little bit. But there's still some positives to take out from this Eagles game. I mean, Saquon Barkley just got the record, single season rushing record for any Eagles running back. He has, I think he has like 1,600 something yards now, which is crazy. Still 4 games left, could totally eclipse that 2,000 yard mark. And, the fact that Jalen Hurts can have 100 yards passing and they're still putting up, 22 points. He's got multiple touchdowns. Saquon looks good. Like, once again, it's just another notch in their direction to show how scary they can be when they don't even need a guy who was phenomenal 2 years ago. One of the biggest reasons why they went to the Super Bowl in Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles will be fine. This is not like a game I'm going to go ahead and be like, ooh, are the Eagles maybe fraud? No, they're not. They're not. They're still good. Number 3, Seahawks Cardinals. This was a 4 o'clock game. The only reason I really put this on here, even though the game itself wasn't exciting or wasn't that close, is because I think, I haven't talked that much about the Seahawks this year. And first off, the Cardinals, goodbye. You had a fun little middle of the season. I don't enjoy watching you anymore, especially as a Marvin Harrison fantasy owner. I can't take it anymore. I picked you. It's my fault, by the way, totally, for picking him in the second round. Stupid. Stupid. Why does every target Marvin Harrison get, 80% of the targets he gets, he's completely covered? And all the touchdowns he ever gets is that stupid over-the-shoulder fade pass. Like, why don't I ever see Marvin Harrison wide open? I don't know. I can't think that, I don't know if Marvin Harrison's good. I don't know. I don't know if it's Kyler Murray just never looking at him. I don't know if it's the play calling. But sometimes this offense is so infuriating to watch. When they're good and they're on, it's fun. But games like this and games that they had earlier on in the season, I'm just frustrated with the Cardinals. And then their defense sucks. And I don't know. It's just annoying to watch Kyler Murray take forever to find his man and to look at his read in these games that matter the most. And I'm done talking about the Cardinals this season. They're done. They're 6-7. The Seahawks are way better. The Rams are better. Even the 49ers are better. I don't care. So let's just shift this back over to the Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet. I know Al is very happy about him. He was able to pick him up on waivers to get that 1 seed. Shout out Al with the 1 seed in our fantasy league. And look, Zach Charbonnet, I actually thought he was pretty average his whole career so far. But the Seahawks needed him most, and he was dominant in this game. He had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. And although Geno Smith, his touchdown to interception ratio is not impressive at all this season, I got to give him props for just his completion percentage. He leads the league. He leads the NFL in total passing yards this year. Good for him. And Jackson Smith-Njigba is totally broken out this season. And it's almost nice to have DK Metcalf as like a compliment. Which was not the case his entire career. I guess Tyler Lockett, but I don't know. I feel like the Seahawks are one of those teams where they're going to end 10-7, and you're going to look back and barely remember this season because they'll probably lose in the first round of the playoffs anyways. But I will say, props to Mike Macdonald as a first-time head coach. Like, there was a point, what did they start, 3-0, and then there was a point where they were like 3-3, and it started to look a lot worse for them. And this was a tough, tight division. And I think the Rams still have a chance for sure. The Seahawks weren't even in my ether for all of the midseason. And now they're sitting here at 8-5, probably getting the 3 seed. And they definitely have elements of their team that are scary. Their defense definitely played well yesterday for sure. But they really just, kind of like with the Bucks, they've just always consistently, or at least average, I feel like. All right, 2 biggest games of the week. Bills-Rams, 44-42, kind of similar to Chiefs-Rams 6 years ago. Is that a scoregami? Probably is. Anyways. Man, where do I even want to start with this game? I mean, obviously one of the candidates for game of the year, for sure. Let's start with the Bills. Start with the losers on this side, Shout out the Bills, man. Regular season champions. But for some reason, just can't get that 1 seed. I'm sorry, when it mattered most, you overlooked a team that has a great offense. But, yeah, it was a little shit talking. But anyways, Josh Allen, probably, unfortunately, because I still want to give it to Saquon. The fact that he's going to probably get 2,000 yards in his first year with another team is crazy. But I know it's going to be Josh Allen for MVP, which is fine. He's still having a great season. And this just solidified it. People are like, why are people talking about how great Josh Allen is when they lost? I'm sorry, quarterbacks aren't purely just a win-loss stat. Look at how they played in the game. It was the Bills' defense, 1 billion%. The Bills' defense was just horrendous today. And there was some faulty... The officiating in this game was definite. I'm not the guy to bring up the refs all the time, but there was some weird officiating in this game. I know people were just talking about on that Puka Nacua screen that basically won the game at the end, got the touchdown. There was some weird holding on the right side of that play. But look, overall, Josh Allen... His career best, 6 touchdowns in a single game. I know he had about 50 fantasy points, which is insane. Completely carried the team on his back in this one. Khalil Shakir, shout out. Kind of a random, not a lot of people talk about him, but he has one of the best catch percentages in the NFL. He rarely drops the ball. He had a great performance. As a James Cook fantasy owner, why in God's name? Why in God's name is he never on the field? I feel like 68% of the time, I just see Ty Johnson out there. Who is Ty Johnson? Anyways, it doesn't matter. That's not why they lost. But, people are blaming Sean McDermott for calling those early timeouts right before that quarterback sneak or right after the quarterback sneak that didn't work. I agree. I don't know why he called that timeout. Kind of just forced them to do the onside kick and then just really have to recover the onside kick and call instead of calling all 3 of their timeouts and still getting the ball back. That was the wrong decision. I don't know what he was doing there. The Bills still scare me the most out of any AFC team. But how are you going to hold the 49ers to 10 and then give up 44 to the Rams? And then give up 30 and lose 35 to 10 against the Ravens as well. There's just these weird moments where it kind of like with the Ravens as well, where even though the Bills this has been their most dominant season, it's just damn, how did that happen? I don't know. So they definitely showed some red flags in this game. And I want to give all the props in the world to the Rams because, man, they might be one of the best teams in NFL history to miss the playoffs. If they end 10-7 and the Seahawks just happen to have, the tiebreaker, I don't know. Because they are so much fun to watch. Puka Nacua is going to have such a great career. I mean, he came back from injury and has been dominant ever since. Cooper Kupp as your wide receiver 2. Are you kidding me? Blake Corum as your running back 2. Are you kidding me? That guy's good as a rookie. And finally, Matt Stafford had a very solid game. It felt like he was quietly actually having one of his worst seasons this year. And to come out on top in a game you absolutely had to win against the Bills, phenomenal. It was definitely up there for game of the year. I love shootouts. I know people that love defense hate these types of games, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to sit here and be with the majority of NFL fans. I enjoy shootouts. So it was fun to watch. It was great to see the Bills go 2 games behind the Chiefs now and almost ruin their chance at the 1 seed. Hopefully the Chiefs could just win 2 more games. But yeah, let's move on to the game that happened last night. Every single week, I have to talk about the Chiefs and the stupid ways that they end up winning these games. I admitted it last week. You know what? It's probably just black magic at this point. What else am I supposed to say? At this point, you know what? I'm just going to have fun with it because we're 12-1. I'm going to be... Look, when I'm 40 years old and we're the Patriots of now, when Mahomes is retired and everything, I'm going to be on my knees begging to go back to the time where we were 12-1, barely winning these games. Everybody was blaming Satan for our victories. It's crazy. Okay, I know most of it is just jokes online, but there are people that are genuinely convinced that, the devil That's how good the Chiefs have been for so long. We just won our 9th straight AFC West title, and we've not had a losing record since I was 11 years old. I have a bachelor's degree. So that's how long it's been. I know, surprisingly, I actually finished college. Anyways, that's a whole other story. Look, the fact that they've been good for this long, and they're like this close to three-peating, has just people going insane online. It's just fun to watch at this point. It bugged me a lot last year, especially. I was really annoyed at all the ref shit or whatever. At this point, I don't even care anymore. Like, if you want to go down the laundry list of things that people are like, the Chiefs should really be 5-8 this year. No, you can't say that if this would have happened, then the Chiefs would have been... It didn't happen! So no, I hate when people say that shit. Like, oh, if Isaiah Likely's toe was a little bit smaller... Okay, grant him that. Grant him that he gets that toe tap. Okay, you still have to go for 2. Why are people automatically assuming the Ravens are going to get the 2-point conversion and the Chiefs lose? Go to week 2. It was a defensive pass interference call, so you can't say that was bullshit. We won that game. Week 3. In Atlanta, yes, 100% that should have been called as DPI, but there was 5 minutes left in the game. At best, Atlanta would have gone up by 3. The Chiefs would have had 5 minutes and 2 timeouts. Every single point of this season, when the Chiefs proved that they needed to actually go down and score points, they've done so. So who's to say they weren't going to do that again? Week 4, 5, 6, 7, all those games were fine. People are like, you barely beat the Bucks in overtime. The Bucks are a good team. What are you talking about? And yes, we won the toss, but the Bucks also have to play defense. The Chiefs marched down the field with ease and scored. So that was a completely earned win. Legitimately the only win, well, I guess the doink was kind of lucky in this game, but the only win that was like pure and utter luck for me was the Raiders game on Black Friday, where, you know, we had no control over the fact that they were going to botch a snap like that. And there's the conspiracy theorists that are like, they want the first overall pick, so they plan that, whatever. I'm not behind that. But, like, it's just so funny going on Twitter after, and, excuse me, X, but, you know, people have just completely lost their minds. They call it Chiefs derangement syndrome now, or Mahomes derangement syndrome, which I think is just so perfect. And, you know, us Chiefs fans, we got to band together and just, you know, kind of live in... Look, growing up in New Jersey, where a bunch of Giants fans, especially around the time Eli Manning, they were winning Super Bowls, the Chiefs were... Half my friends were like, who are the Chiefs? I don't even know what you're talking about. Those times, if I would have came back and told myself when I was younger as a kid that this would be the thing I'm dealing with the most, is people thinking we're like have a deal with the devil and we're doing black voodoo magic at halftime and that's why we're winning games, we're about to three-peat, I'd be like, wait, hold on, excuse me? You said the word three-peat? Yeah, that's all I give a shit about. So... I'm just gonna, whatever happens this season happens, but I'm just gonna enjoy the ride because holy crap, has this been a roller coaster. I barely even talked about the game itself because I really don't need to until things change. I mean, it was just a classic Chiefs, you know, go down, have one good touchdown drive, settle for a bunch more field goals, look super vanilla on offense, make a bunch of mistakes. Jawan Taylor lining up offsides, was Chris Collinsworth called out a bunch of times on the broadcast. I hate Jawan Taylor. I hate him. He's the worst right tackle we've ever had. Our left tackle situation, I eyed DJ Humphrey for the entire game. It's not his fault. Like, there's too much pressure on him, but he looked bad. He looked bad as well. And he's probably rusty. He just came back from a torn ACL. It's his first game on the Chiefs. But, man, if there is one reason why we 100% are not going to three-peat this year, it's our offensive tackles. And that's a major issue. There was so much pressure getting into Mahomes this past game, and that scares me the most. I think our receivers are actually fine. And then our cornerback 2 situation's bad. The fact that Josh Palmer was wide open on a touchdown, which Justin Herbert just ended up missing, that was lucky. There you go, that was lucky. And it was just another one of those games where we played down to our opponent, and we made it close, and we somehow squeaked out a win at the end. So, I don't know what else to tell you. I want to give you more in-depth analysis, but it's been the same thing every game. So, I just got to enjoy it at this point. And, you know, I will be grateful, though, that we are 9 times in a row the AFC West champions, which that doesn't escape me. That's crazy. We were 12-1. This is Mahomes' 4th season in 7 starting seasons where he has 12 or more wins. So that's pretty awesome. And guys, yeah, that's it for the episode this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please keep commenting down below. We love interacting with you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And then follow us on social media on Instagram and TikTok at First and Gold. So there you go. Week 14 recap in the books. We'll see you for next episode. Goodbye.